All right, well, joining us now on the Marlins Hot Stove Show, we would like to wish a very happy new year to Marlins hitting coach Pedro Guerrero. Pedro, thanks so much for joining us. And yes, a very happy new year to you and your family. Welcome to the Marlins. Thanks so much for hopping on and joining us.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Pedro, you've got an amazing baseball background. I know Steven and I have read all about it. You've had many stops along the way. You've played, but let's hop into things right now. Why, at this point in your career, was joining the Miami Marlins the best fit for you?
A lot of different reasons, but the most important one is the fact that we get a blank state. Not many organizations have the opportunity to do that at the major league and minor league level. Usually, when you go into rebuilding in the major league side of things, usually you just get that side. And here we get to do um, the entire minor leagues, all the way from DR to Miami, which is pretty exciting. Not only for me, I'm pretty sure the entire coaching staff is really stoked about it.
Pedro, what are you looking to bring as far as some of your experience and what you've learned from different major league organizations?
Definitely a mix of hitting philosophies per se. I don't think I have one philosophy that people have to like fall into. I think that's a trap that hitting coaches can fall into. Like, this is my philosophy, and everybody has to like um, pretty much buy into it. I
Sure.
believe you gotta coach the players and the individualism. The one thing that we want to bring is basically our pillars. We want to hit strikes hard. So basically, staying within the zone and do damage with those pitches. The other thing that we're trying to incorporate that is kind of new is having a cohesive hitting system, which is going to go all the way down from DR um, to Miami, and it's going to be a unique thing that we're trying to do with Derek Shaman, the assistant hitting coach, and Joe Migliaccio, the director of hitting.
And Pedro, I know that there's some familiar ties with Gabe Kapler. Just um, what I guess was some of the reasons why you guys may have clicked, or why this it feels a little bit more comfortable knowing people that you've worked with before.
Absolutely. I work with a few of the staff, including Gabe and the front office in the Dodgers minor league system, and definitely it's comfortable. And I'm lucky to work with this amazing group of people. Trust me, I'm so happy for the players that they get to be part of this great group of guys that I already had some experience in LA with, that just bring so much enthusiasm and innovative things, and just enthusiastic in the field, and just bunch of energy that guys kind of like feed off of.
Pedro, how much did you overlap with Clayton McCullough during your Dodgers days?
Uh, Clayton is probably not a lot of people know this, but before I got my first job as coaching, uh, was Clayton was the first person that kind of like interviewed me. So we
Oh,
were, he was in baseball, I was out of baseball. I was doing like tower work and stuff, and we got to have like a brunch type of deal just to get to know me. And then like 6 months later, I get the opportunity to do an interview for the Dodgers in the minor league system, and that's how things ended up happening. Then 2 years in LA, that's what I spent with Clayton for a little bit, and always see him across the field with LA in the major leagues as well.
okay, back up. What job were you doing when you were out of baseball?
I was when my career was over, I I couldn't find a job. You're a major league, you're a professional baseball player, you're 24, 25, and then you have to fill this resume of like what are your experiences? Like, there is none, and no application that says former baseball player, and nothing like that. So I had to always put other and put baseball player. And nobody called me back, so it was tough to get a job. And a friend back in Utah, Trent Runkles, he got me a job climbing towers. Basically, I climbed towers 50, 300 feet in the air and change antennas and replace. Back then was we were going from 3G to 4G. So don't
Oh,
take for granted the signals that you get on the phone, because
thank
we
you for your
often
service,
do.
Pedro.
I appreciate you.
That's a pretty good paying job, though, those guys that are climbing towers.
And
You'll be
dangerous.
surprised. It should pay more.
Oh, should it? Okay.
You should pay
Now,
more.
was that hourly or was that salary, Pedro? What was the overtime like?
That's hourly, and it's tough. It's a tough work, man. You guys appreciate the service.
So, Pedro, this is a perfect segue into one of my bigger questions that I have for you, because your first job was rookie ball in Utah. So you're working as a tower climber or whatever. You just explained 3G to 4G. Again, thank you for your service. You then go into rookie ball, but because your name is Pedro Guerrero and there was a 5-time All-Star and a World Series MVP, Pedro Guerrero, you were working so hard with that rookie ball team that you checked your bank account and you weren't getting paid.
It's just too many coincidences. Like, I'm from San Pedro de Macorís, Dominican Republic, right? Also, the Pedro Guerrero that played for the Dodgers was from San Pedro de Macorís, and we have the same name. We both played for the Dodgers. Um, Obviously, he was a way better hitter than me. But once I signed to be a coach, the expectation was that it was that Pedro Guerrero. So my checks was going to Florida while I was working in Utah, and I call in to just kind of like get some information on that. Like, hey, why am I not getting paid? I have a month and a half in the job already.
Pedro, one of my questions for you, and we were chatting with Carson Vitale, who I'm sure you're obviously getting more familiar with. Well, maybe I shouldn't assume. Did you know Carson prior to working with him now?
Yes, he was in charge of the Dominican Republic complex when I started working in LA.
Okay, so here's my question for you, because I thought Steven and we had a great conversation with Carson, and he's got some incredible life experience, and he was talking about how the Dominican Republic really transformed him, as a person, not just as a baseball man. But I would just like to know, for you, when you were growing up, how much was baseball a way of life and possibly an opportunity to make something for yourself, and like that was your meal ticket? Like, if I can make it in baseball, this is how I'm going to help my family.
I think in my country, if you are born and you're a male, the first thing that comes to mind is a bat and a glove. And it's first the hope of the parents to come out of like poverty. And that's how it starts. They plant that seed in your head. You get a glove for Christmas per se. Here we go. And that's how things starts. But then you start really like feeling passionate about it and figure out what you are good at, and things that you can't really describe. It's just like the competition that comes around it. Like, everybody on the field just trying to get better, and you go from, maybe this is really what my parents want me to do, or this is my passion, because you just love competing against those guys and just showing that you are better. It is definitely something that that first is plant a seed in you and then just evolves into something that you really love doing.
Did you have a coach or an influence in the DR from a baseball perspective that you felt really shaped you?
I think the first coach we all have is our dads, our dads in the backyard. But I think that the very role model for our entire family has always been Manny Acta, my uncle. And we always looked up to him and all the things that he has been able to achieve in the game.
And your uncle is
Manny Acta.
Manny Acta. And he
was a great
managed
manager.
Washington and Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. But just to have someone that made it to the majors and managed, I mean, what did you learn from Manny, or continue to learn from him?
One of the biggest lessons I've learned, and he still to this day keep reminding me, is to be myself. I think we often get caught up in trying to fit in into places and fit into roles that we forget who we are, and we don't do the things that we just don't act like ourselves. And that's the biggest downfall of anybody.
Pedro, we have chatted about this new Marlins coaching staff, and one of the very intriguing parts of it is the youth movement. It's amazing. You're 36, 37, right? I think
Yes.
Clayton McCullough might be, at the moment, the oldest person on this coaching staff, and he's a first-time manager. in his 40s. What intrigues you about working with a staff that has a lot of baseball experience, but relatively inexperienced, maybe at your new opportunities, but like doing this together and building something? How cool is that?
It's incredible, man. Like I mentioned before, the opportunity to have in a blank state and just come from different organizations, different backgrounds, and bring that side of things, that the best of each organization, the best of the experience that we have gotten throughout our coaching careers in different places. Now we get to combine that and bring it here, and build this from the ground up.
Where are we at hitting wise going into 2025, Pedro? Just the game in general, because it's been over the last decade or so, we what feels like is shoved down our throats is launch angle and exit velocity, and power is what wins. And if you're not hitting homers, you're not going to win games. This roster at the moment, as it's presently constructed, might not have as much power as some of the other teams in baseball. But like, I guess this is more of a two-part question now. But let's start with, where do you think the game is at today, especially in your role as the hitting coach of a Major League Baseball team?
I think it's so important, um, to not fall for what this team is doing, what this team is doing, because I don't know if you probably remember, like back in the day, each team have their own philosophies or
Sure.
their own identity. Like these guys were just gonna hit homers. These guys were the best team in running the bases. These guys would play the fundamentals, and I think that's what we're trying to create here. We're trying to create an identity for the Miami Marlins from Dominican Republic all the way to Miami. And it starts with the basis of we're gonna hit strikes hard. Like our team uh haven't done a really good job of controlling the strike zone, and that is something that we're gonna take very seriously, and help them recognize that and improve in those areas all the way from DR to here.
How do you do that? I mean, it sounds easy to say that,
Of
okay.
course.
And obviously, like, we're going to hit strikes. We're not going to go fishing for
Yeah.
sliders in the other batter's box. Every person is different. Everybody's approach at the plate is different. Are you trying to get everybody more on the same page? How do you just, we're going to hit strikes? How do you do that? They're throwing 100, Pedro. How do you do this?
Well, we have, you said earlier in the questions that everybody's following for exit velocity and launch angle and all of that stuff. Well, all these things we can track now based, because of technology. And I don't know if you probably heard Peter talk about all the money that has been invested in the organization, and they have provided just a ton of support in things that are going to help us recognize that. Like one of the things that through my playing career and my coaching career has been that you always hear the same messages in terms of like, oh, you got to hit strikes. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to play the fundamentals. We're going to move the runners. We're going to do this. And those are the areas that everybody has to improve. But what we don't do enough is to support the players with self feedback. Like they don't get to see what they hit until after the fact. A guy struck out, right? And they go back to the iPad and they see where was that pitch, or the umpire rung them up on a ball, and they get to go back and see that. And they don't got that instant feedback. We are trying to provide as much instant feedback during training environment scenarios that we can, so they know exactly where that pitch was, what did I hit, uh, and now we're actually training what we're preaching. And it's not just like, we're going to hit more strikes. Yeah, that was a ball. You got to go and hit strikes again. It's not just a message. We are actually uh, training towards that goal.
You mentioned technology. How much has batting practice changed over the years?
Not really much, to be honest. Like you see here and there, you see a machine on the field or not, but it hasn't changed much. I think honestly, you have kind of gone backwards because I had the opportunity to work with like really good hitting coaches, in Philadelphia, in San Francisco, in LA, and you hear these hitting coaches talk about back in the day they will throw like mixed body practice, so they have a pitcher in the mound that was just trying basically to throw in a bat to hitters. And I think that changed, and it changed to a guy to throw 40 mile per hour, 44 mile per hour, right in the middle. So he looks good and the player looks good and everybody feels good at the end of the day. And then you don't get to see that in the game. You have a guy trying to strike you out and throwing balls and mixing in and here and there. And we're trying to simulate that a little more because I think we have gone backwards in terms of training.
And I hope this isn't a silly question, but these are just my observations up in the booth, Pedro. Even when watching batting practice, if let's say you're facing a lefty, they'll have a lefty throw batting practice. Does that matter? Like even the mechanical aspect of it. I mean, different guys have different mechanics. Do you get that into the weeds, or is that just not as important? I don't know. I just always thought it was interesting how each team sort of goes about when they're facing an opposing starting pitcher.
I think it's really important to simulate as much as we can what the starter is going to have. So if it's a lefty, we'll love to simulate as much lefty angles as we can because it does affect. Like you have a righty that probably hits pitches well inside from a right-handed pitcher, but then
Sure.
a lefty, a pitch coming in is not the same. So then he might struggle with that. So it will be great for us to expose him to those angles.
Sorry, Kyle, taking three in a row here. But any players that you worked with on this current Marlins roster? I know that Otto Lopez had a little bit of time in San Francisco, but just overall, any Marlins players that you worked with before?
Um, Not really. Otto was there throughout the spring training, so I have a little bit of experience with him. Derek Hill as well spent like maybe a week or two throughout the season, and then he came to the Marlins. So
This is just more of a comment, but Otto Lopez, there's this saying that it takes no talent to hustle. That dude has carved out a role for himself in Major League Baseball with his work ethic every day. Somebody finally gave him a chance last year. I thought he was one of the better defensive second basemen in baseball. And my God, whenever you needed him to move a runner over or get him in, Pedro, he just got the job done every time. You must love that as a hitting coach.
100%. And I know I know Otto Lopez since winter ball. Like he had played winter ball for Escogidos over there, and he's been the same player that you just described. And I'm happy he got an opportunity to do it here because I knew he had it in him.
Can
Is
we
it?
stick on the – oh, go ahead, Steven. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Kyle. Go. I took three in a row.
I have a question. Again, this is actually more of an observation about batting practice, Pedro. It's
Okay.
something that drives me bananas. Teams are a half game out of a wild card chase in September. It's game 2 of the National League Division Series. And by golly, somebody's asked to drop down a bunt and they can't do it because I watch guys lazily drop down bunts and not care about it in batting practice because it's a Wednesday in the middle of May. How serious and how important. And I know bunting has gone by the wayside in baseball. I know you're giving somebody a free out. But my
Yeah.
goodness, I swear more often than not these days when you need somebody to do it, they can't. How important is it to be able to, in a serious manner, take the ability to bunt a baseball, even though you may infrequently do it?
Bunting is important even to hit, in my opinion. We hear from old school coaches that we had. When you're struggling at the plate, the first thing that you do is like, hey, maybe drop a bunt. When you are struggling at the plate, even if you don't drop the punt, it will help you see that ball better. Those things are to me really important. The time I spent in San Francisco, I've heard Barry Bonds talk in the cage about bunting a lot just because he will put his body into a good position. So if the best hitter that we've ever seen in this time has says that, like there's some truth to that.
Is it easier going back to the roster and guys like Otto Lopez? Some of these, majority of these guys on the roster that have little experience at the major league level. Now, for you, first year hitting coach, is it easier to coach these guys because they don't have as much experience? If guys are in a slump, like let's say there was a veteran, you probably maybe would let him work his way out of it. Is it easier going into this situation where not a lot of guys have a ton of experience, where you really feel like you can be hands-on?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if it's easier or not. It's the job, whether you have veteran guys or young guys, still hitters, and it's not about me. It's more about the players, always is. So whether they have some time in the big leagues or they don't, it's still about them. The most important thing is them. They're the one going up to the plate, and they're the one getting embarrassed if they struck out or coming back. It's not me. So I'm just there to support them throughout their journey and do the best I can to put them in a position where they can be successful.
Pedro, I think Steven makes a good point about a lot of obviously there's a lot of young guys, a lot of young kids, it feels like, on this roster.
Yes.
With that will come a lot of challenges, and young men that go through struggles in the big leagues. It feels like you'll never see the other side of the forest. How do you massage younger players and not just work with them, but help them and say, like, I know you're 0 for your last 22 and this isn't going well, but you're good enough to be here. You can play at this level. How do you not only work with them from a mechanical side, but from a mental side as well?
I love that you touched that. Um, the most important thing before you try to help somebody on from a mechanical side or an approach side, you have to know and understand how that person thinks. If we know how the person thinks, then we can help them. It's like in school. If your teacher knows how you learn, then he'll be a good teacher because he's gonna know how to teach you. Um, I this is my first year being a hitting coach, but I have 7 years as an assistant hitting coach, and the one thing that is you don't see because it's behind the scenes during the cage grinding is that an assistant hitting coach basically uh, deals a lot with the mental side of things because the first place that players go when they're struggling is the cage, not just to hit, but also to vent, either
Clear their
throw
mind.
or yeah, just let some steam out. And that's when you really get to connect with the players because you're not talking about probably a swing or approach. You're trying to see what's going on. If there's something beyond on the field, is there something that is probably troubling the guy? And those are the first thing. It's more conversations than hey, right into the mechanics. Like you missed that pitch because of this and that. It's not about that. It's a game, and we're trying to help them out throughout the journey as well. Like the biggest jump that they're gonna have is from minor leagues to the big leagues. It's not from A ball to double A. So in that jump, we have some experience. Derek Sherman and I have some experience with some of the young guys coming up, and we hope we're gonna be there to help them.
You sort of mentioned it, but is there a recipe for the medicine that you're going to provide for these guys that do eventually get into slumps? Is it like you said, just get to know them on a personal level and work from there? Or, what have you found the most successful when you're sitting down with someone that is going through it?
That depends on the person. So it varies. It's not like there's not a secret formula. I don't think anybody has. If not, nobody will slump. Um, if I think if a guy is young and he comes up and he hasn't had any at bats, the first thing is just let him play his game and just let him know that it's still a game. Because there's so much pressure added into the job already. They're going to do something that is the most difficult thing to do in any sport in the world, that is hit a baseball. Let alone now you're up there and the expectations are that you are the guy that's going to help us because you're the new guy that brings the energy, that brings the tools, and then all of that. The guy comes up and 3 games, no hits, and that just start piling up. So what you want is to let the guy know that's still the same game. Before you were a professional baseball player and you have all this information and knew who that guy on the mound is, when teams came to see you, you didn't know who was pitching, you didn't know his name, you didn't know where he was from. You didn't know if he strike people out or he just pitched to contact. You just went up there believing that you were better than him, and that's it. And that's the beauty of the game.
Steven, do you have another question? The leaf blower guy's at my door. I can barely hear.
Oh man. No, I'm just curious, Pedro, I to get off the baseball side, I think it's so important to be bilingual. I take Spanish class. My wife is from Argentina, and I know that for you, you are bilingual. How important is that in connecting with different players?
I think it's really important. I had such a good experience through my career when I was playing. Like you come over, you don't speak any English, and my teammates were so awesome. I had such a good teammates when I was here that they just helped me through. We were in the game, and whether they struck out or I struck out, we were in the dugout, still talking to each other, not blowing off steam. They would try to help me, which was impressive, right? Throughout a game, they're struggling or I'm struggling, and they're still messing up with me in words, and they have some fun, of course, but it's part of it, right? Um, the the thing that bring people together is usually on different cultures and different backgrounds. It's usually food, music, and a fun conversation. So in order for all of those to happen, I think that the language barrier needs to be dropped. I think it's crucial.
So let's say we spent a day in the life with you in the Dominican Republic, and I have no idea location wise where you are from, but where would you take us? What would you have us eat? Sort of like what would be our day in the life with you?
Oh man. First, I think, do you want like a real experience of VR, or you want to go to
Yes.
the resorts?
No.
No,
It
I've been to
depends.
resorts. I've been to Punta Cana.
Yeah, I've been to Punta Cana. It was fine.
Come
I
on.
want the real experience, Pedro.
Okay, I'm from San Pedro de Macorís, and I live from a little town called Consuelo. Uh, a lot of major leaguers have come out of there. Julio Cesar Franco and many others once in a while. And I really would love to take you there and see the facility, see the kids playing baseball, and what are the conditions of these fields and the materials that they're using in order to play. I think it'll be beautiful for you, and you will really appreciate what you do and the things that we get in this country. Um, the other thing is definitely we'll take you to eat some local food, pasteles or arroz, habichuela, carne, So maybe go to the beach and enjoy some time over there, but definitely mostly spend time in Consuelo with some of my friends. I think you will enjoy that more.
I think you could be able to articulate this for us, Pedro. You know,
Okay.
Stephen and I growing up, we love sports and we have heroes and there's players you look up to. But this
Mhm.
probably goes back to my question earlier. When David Ortiz or Julio Franco or the game's biggest stars that come from the Dominican Republic come home and a 6 or 7 year old young boy or girl sees them, what does that mean to see their heroes, especially in a place like that where, like you said, when you're born, and especially if you're a boy when you're born, like you better get yourself a bat and a glove. Like, what does it mean to see those guys when they come home?
It's amazing. It's like seeing a superhero. Because as close as we see major leagues here, like for example, we cannot go and watch a major league game, right? But here, let's say you're born in Miami or in Florida, you can travel and see a major league field, you can see a major league player, and you can see batting practice. We don't get to see that. So the closest thing we get is when these players come back or either play winter ball um, during their career or before their career in the major leagues or at the end of their career of in the major leagues. And we see them walking on the street. It's like, it is possible. We see it closing.
I'd like to get back to some of the baseball. Pedro, I apologize, but my HOA fees are being put to good use out here. But I've shooed the leaf blower guys away.
It's
They're
Hey,
all
blowing the
good.
leaves on
I
Kyle's
cannot hear it,
mansion.
so you're good.
I know I muted myself. I was hoping you and Steven could take care of it. Your job to me seems very daunting right now. Obviously, you have help. There are minor league hitting coaches, instructors, directors, what have you. But come spring training time, there's going to be 65, 70 guys in the big league clubhouse. You'll be there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. You'll leave at 4:30, 5 o'clock at night. The work doesn't start then. It's obviously started already. What
Mhm.
have you been doing? Is a lot of this stuff philosophical changes, or have you dove into individual players?
I think a little bit of everything. The most important thing for me is connect to these players and have the empathy towards them of going through so many changes. They're coming in, and guys that were in the minor leagues are seeing different faces up and down. And it's always about them, right? Like if if these guys are coming in and everybody's new, it's just letting them know that we are here to support them. So the first thing is like connect with them. Like I'm just reaching out to guys, and some are harder than others, but getting to know them on a personal level and seeing what are they doing so far, if they're cranking up hitting yet or not. Like this is happening in November, right? December. Um, that's the most important thing. Connect with them so when they go to spring training and they see me, there's no like, who is this guy? So there's some familiarity there, and that's how you build trust.
Okay, so you say trust. Stephen I has asked this question before. I find it to be a very good question, and I'm going to take it from him. When you're building trust with these guys,
Hmm.
whether you're making $10 million or $700,000 as a rookie, it's only human nature as a professional athlete. I'd be thinking, oh gosh, I think Pedro's really good. I think he's going to help me. But if it doesn't work, I'm done. I'm going to get released. Then I don't have a job. Like, you do have to build trust. How do you get them to just believe in you, even if there are struggles at first in what you're trying to teach?
I think it comes with the packages and the drills and the conversations that you have throughout. There's things that might stick, and it's our job to figure out a way for them to like to help them out when the things don't stick. Hey, this is I think there's something else that we can help you with, and you throw it out there and see if he helps, and if he does, and the trust just goes bigger. I don't think trust is something that, oh, if this doesn't work, I don't trust you anymore, because it's baseball, it's hitting, and they understand it's hard, they know it's hard. I'm just here to support them like in a big way.
Speaking of the players, Pedro, just as much as we've harped on the fact that they're young, and that's great in a lot of ways, there's some talent on this team. I mean, what we saw from Connor Norby, what we saw from Xavier Edwards, we know Jesus Sanchez has big time pop. I would like you to name me at least one player that you're really excited to work with, either whether your conversation with the individual or just their raw talent on what you've seen on film.
Um, this one will be it could be an easy pick. Xavier Edwards, talked to him a little bit, and he just seems to know himself. And as our job as coaches and mentors and teachers is to help the players to teach themselves. And my conversation with him, uh, I can tell that he just knows himself very well, and that is encouraging because that's my job: teach the young guys how to coach themselves. So when the things are not going as well, they can have peace of mind that they know and have a foundation that they can fall back to and get out of struggles. Um, Davison de los Santos, I know you guys saw the numbers in the minor leagues are whoa. Definitely there are areas of improvement, but definitely huge upside there. I talked to a lot of the guys, and I'm really excited because when I talk to any of these guys, they always talk about how they support the team. They are supporting each other. The conversations and things that I hear from them is great because they talk to me about when I go back to the dugout, I asked Derek Hill this, and he mentioned this, and the support among each other is the hardest thing to build in a team, and I think they already have that. So I'm excited coming in into spring training with these guys.
One guy I would like to ask you about and just have you chat about a little bit.
Hmm.
Jesus Sanchez, Pedro. I mean, it feels like we were headed down a road of where he was going to have to platoon because he had a very difficult time hitting left-handed pitching. But my goodness, he's always stuck out to me as a guy. If he figured it out 4 or 5 years from now, dude, he'd be commanding $100 million on the free agent market. Like, it feels like he's that kind of player if he can hit lefties. I know there's more to it, but when you look at him, am I way off there, or can he be that kind of player? The kid is really, really good. He has hot
Yeah,
stretches, man, for 2 weeks where it's like nobody can get him out.
I don't think you're wrong. I think the upside is still really up with him. We just gotta help him control the zone a little bit. You mentioned lefties; he just chases in off a lot versus lefties. Excuse me. And it's more about conversations with him and see what the approach is with the lefties. What is he trying to do? Because like sometimes guys just think they hit a certain pitch, but he might change according to which pitcher is throwing instead of righty, instead of lefty. You handle these pitches well from righties, but that doesn't mean you handle one from lefties because of the angle and things like that. So I think definitely the upside is there. So you're not wrong. Sanchi, the raw power is crazy. When he puts the barrel on the ball is just gonna come off hot. He's exciting to see at the plate. Definitely, I don't think pitchers just throw the ball over. They're afraid to make a mistake when he's at the plate. it's just a matter of like with the entire team. Again, we just got to focus on controlling that zone and providing the feedback that we are trying to provide. I think it's going to help.
I have a couple more, Steven. Do you have any more? You all said.
No, I'm good.
Hey, I should have
Okay.
asked you this earlier, Pedro, because again, the strikeouts in today's game, today's day and age, they're up more than ever. But I also think there's a direct correlation to guys throwing harder than ever. And there is obviously people that say teams value the long ball and striking out's not as big of a deal as it used to be. Where do you fall on that? Because again, I don't simply think it's all on the offense. Like, oh, the players just, they swing as hard as they can and they strike out. Well, yeah, but like the pitchers are also really, really good. It's probably not easy to hit a baseball from 60 feet, 6 inches away.
That's right. Again, it's the hardest thing to do. Pitchers are, they actually have the ball in their hand. The hitters are just reacting to it, so it makes it even harder. Um, I do value putting the ball in play. There is value in that. If you have a, a situation in which you need something to happen, you rather something to happen moving forward, the ball forward, than just striking out and walking back to the dugout for sure. But I think there's a lot that has to do with the approach of guys. The effort is one of the things that I think in the game is not talked about enough. It's just about maximizing what is your best swing and maximizing what is your best pitch, and the harder you throw, the tougher it will be. So hitters tend to just chase the best result in terms of like movement, swing, um, hard contact, and then they forget that when every time we hit a home run, we don't feel anything. When you hit a home run, you don't feel anything off the bat. It's like seamless, easy, fluid, or whatever words you want to use to describe it. And that's when effort comes in. So if we don't also practice that, so this is a machine that is throwing hard, or a coach that is throwing hard, or whatever it is, and you cannot work on your effort level, then that's where we see a lot of like strikeouts. So definitely have some drill packages and a lot of talking points about effort that can help us with that.
All right, Pedro. Well, listen, you've been very generous with your time. Hey, my only other question, you have any buddies in the cell tower climbing business? Have they talked you through the 4G to 5G process? Have you inquired? I know you did 3G to 4G. What's the 5G LTE process? Have you talked to them about that?
Oh man, no, I have friends still on Facebook, but we haven't talked about the upgrade.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, very good. Pedro, hey, look, you look very good in that Marlins
Yeah, he
sweatshirt,
does.
man. We're
Looks like you can
really
still play.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
excited to see you, man. We're excited to get to know you and more about what you guys are all about. So, hey, welcome to Miami, and thanks so much for time, and thanks for joining us at the Marlins Hot Stove Show.
Thanks for hanging out,
Appreciate
Pedro.
you. Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate it.